Joseph Nia Adekoka is the chairman of the NDC for Greater Accra. And thanks for joining me, Joseph.
Thank you.
All right. Good morning. And Joe Wise, Joe Osewusu, is a former chief executive for the DVLA, but currently member of parliament for Bekwai legal practitioner as well. And thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much. I'm also Joseph. If you want to Joe, so that's
okay.
Two Joes. Two Josephs.
Joseph.
We will take to the promise.
J squared.
Exactly.
Right. Now we have issues up for discussion. Over the last couple of days, we've been hearing, and this was spearheaded by the Chamber of the BDCs, and its chief executive was on radio, TV, and other, well, press outlets to announce that it is likely, well, in speculation, that the current prices we're having at the pumps for the various petroleum products could reduce between the ranges of 10 to 15%. But so far, it hasn't materialized. We're being told that from at least from today to tomorrow, we should see an end in sight to that very speculation coming into fruition. Well, there are some, according to the critics, are not too happy about it because it's. But is it true? If it's been reduced, we should all be happy. Joe Osewusu, we should all be happy, shouldn't we?
Yes, indeed.
Or you are skeptical?
Well, I have grown to accept that seeing is believing. Not all the things we say do we often do. So I'm waiting, indeed. My fuel tank is so low because yesterday I expected that to come down this morning so I would refill. You know, so I'm expecting that when I go to the petrol station today, it would have come down. If it has not, I'll still have no choice but to refill because otherwise I may not reach Parliament House. But the truth of the matter is that the expectations are high. Everybody hopes to make some gains. You know, so we should walk our talk. After all, if it were going to be an increase, the day you hear it, the next morning it is there. So we expect that what has been put out, it should be followed through so that we see the benefit of the value of our currency going up and the prices of the crude going down. That is what we deserve. When it went up, we endured it. If it's going down, we should benefit from it.
But it means that the pricing policy, partial deregulation is good after all, despite all the criticisms that people or even agencies may level against it.
Well, let me say good morning to you and my brother Joe here. Look, this is long overdue. It's long overdue. We started hearing of the prices coming down as far back as last week, getting the end of the week when the dollar started coming, because the argument earlier on was that fuel price has gone up because of the CD dollar parity. Now it's come down. So I don't see the reason why today, Thursday, we are still buying petrol at the prices that they are. When it goes up, or when they want to increase it, within a twinkle of an eye, it goes up. So I expect that by the close of business today, and all of us must demand it. All of us must demand by the close of business today, the price of petrol must come down. And I'm looking for the NPA and all those regulators to get up and inform them that today we are expecting them to bring them. Look, they cannot take us for a ride. You know, this country, prices go, immediate prices go, when prices are coming down, go to the markets. They are not coming down. And we are all sitting down applauding them. There should be a movement to ensure that when you say prices have gone up, it goes up. When it's coming down, it must come down within the same time frame. Otherwise, what are you talking about? You know, they are not being fair to everybody. They are not being fair. They want to maximize their. I'm sure they don't keep stock that long. They buy as so. I'm sure by now what they are buying is at a lower rate. The crude has come down. I mean, yesterday with the American and all those countries having an accord with Iran, the price of crude has come down. You know, so we are demanding. We are demanding by close of business, not tomorrow. Otherwise, I personally will lead a crusade to go towards that guy's name, Senor. I'll be at his office demanding that by close of business today, the price of petrol should come down.
Well, we know that it's the NPA that's a regulator.
No, that is the regulation. Well, so it's OMCs, they determine the prices.
Well,
now.
they determine.
Yeah, they determine the prices
and
Yes.
and the MPA, of course, does the regulation.
Yes.
Agrees with on the thresholds.
Yes.
So they know which part is the cost recurrent cost, what markup you can. Then the MPAs should now each one determine its own price. But as I said, I think that we're entitled to the benefit we're getting. I also know that people are skeptical about the sustainability of the gains made in the value of the city.
That's not the issue.
Yes, I don't even.
That's not the issue. Yes.
Even if it's one day, doing that one day, I should get my benefit
Exactly.
as a country. And now, I agree with you entirely. I expect you to lead, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if
It's raining, he can't lead in the rain.
oh well,
No.
leadership.
I've seen one picket man before. I'll go after some picket.
So I expect you to lead and ensure that I who are your my servant.
Oh, no, you are colleagues.
I'm your servant.
You are colleagues.
You lead and I follow, and you make sure that the prices come down.
Right.
We are entitled to the benefits.
Okay.
Exactly.
We'll come back and talk about what the role of the MPA should have been in all this, because if the MPA had done the initial announcement of perceived partial deregulation, so to speak, then at least they should also be at the forefront and making sure that the consumer get what is due them. We're being told that workers of the company Starwin Products Ghana Limited, they have locked out they have been locked out from entering into the compound by the police, and it's as a result of initial agitations they started, I believe, the beginning of the week or last week, because they had heard that one of the pharmaceutical giants, Danex, is assuming a majority ownership role in the company. And we have Francis Aban on the line. We would want to speak to him because he's at the premises of the company. What really is happening? What's the atmosphere at the forecourt of Starwin Ghana?
Ago, the workers were up and arms, angry about their inability to access their offices. They said they came to work normally yesterday until 4 a.m. this morning when they were walking in, and they realized that the police had taken the entrance over and had indicated that they were acting on summons that had been served, and they were acting on that. Now, you would know that for Starwin and Danex, the legal battle over the takeover has been in the news for some time. The Danex has now assumed, we understand, some 70% ownership of Starwin Products Limited. Now, the minority shareholder, the workers, have indicated that they are resisting the takeover until the proper procedures, and they believe that the takeover was fraudulently done, and so they are resisting it. So this morning, up until just a few minutes ago, they were angry, but the General Secretary of the Industrial and Commercial Workers, Solomon Kutei, arrived about 10 minutes ago, spoke to the police, received the summons, and then the first have been completed. So the workers can actually return to their offices in just a few minutes. The laws have been locked, and so they're trying to get the keys and have them return to us. But indeed, it's not the end of the matter, Roland, because they have indicated that since the matter is in court and is being dealt with, they would pursue the matter to its logical conclusion in court, get the ruling done. If it turns out that the next will have the all-clear takeover, they are asking that the proper compensation be paid them to leave, or to be given the right working conditions to be able to stay here and work. Okay.
Before we let you go, you were saying that the workers hold a majority. Minority. Okay.
Yes, minority.
Okay. So how did that come about? Has it always been the case?
Well, the understanding I get from them is that some of them have been able to buy shares in the company. Some hovering around 10%. Still minority, but you're saying that even though they don't have the controlling stake, they have a say on what happens to the company. Remember that Starwin is one of the oldest pharmaceutical companies in the country, and they're saying that their long-serving position here in this company gives them the right, plus a service box, to be able to have a say in who takes over the company. All
right, thank you very much, Francis Aban, the premises of Starwin, at the industrial area here in Accra. And we'll give you a lot more updates during the day. But now let's get back to the subject of the MPA price or partial price deregulation and the current issue about pricing, for which we're waiting imminently for that very pricing. What role then should the MPA be playing? Because if initially you came and said, well, partial deregulation, the prices are going to increase from now, but this is going to be regulated by the OMC themselves with a cap, then you should also be spearheading this one and make sure quickly they do that.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. Initially, the MPO were the authority that sets the fuel prices, and apparently they claimed they were always owing the OMC, so they had to relinquish their responsibility to them. But that notwithstanding, it is still a regulator. So, as it stands now, I hope and pray that they will have to tell us something. I'm not sure that they've given up and saying that they should do whatever they want to do. So, as we are saying now, we are all anticipating that when prices rise, NPA sits down and allows them to sell the fuel at whatever within a certain limits. Now it has come down, so they should be up and doing. Their role, their mandate has not changed. Still, they are in charge of our fuel regime. So I'm expecting that they should quickly come and tell us something. That's what I can say about it. They have not relinquished their duty. So we expect that they are still there. Asaga is still in charge. It has not been dissolved. They have a board. They are functioning. They have a PRO. So I'm sure if they are not watching us, somebody should call them and say that myself and Joe here are demanding that they shouldn't relinquish their oversight responsibility and ensure that whatever needs to be done by the close of business today, it should be done. We cannot wait any day longer.
Well, for those who monitor fiscal regulation and activity, so to speak, the high or perhaps low rise or appreciation or depreciation of prices of petroleum product has got a great influence on price inflation, so to speak. And as a result of that, has a lot of influence on the way we have trade and commerce in our country. One issue that has been bugging us is how we tend to raise our revenue as well. But there's always been the concern, particularly for the current financial year, whether we're going to meet our targets at all, especially when we've gone to the IMF and the talk has been how we need to review the budgets, etc. Now, we're being told that Cabinet met to review the 2015 budget at the mid-year and also consider supplementary estimate to be submitted before Parliament. Jose also is a member of Parliament, but also they said they discussed the Youth Employment Agency, funding of digital migration, etc. But the main concern has been about the rise in public debt. Now, it has risen from March to the tune of 88 billion Ghana cedis to 89 billion Ghana cedis as of May. That's about 2 months ago. For many people, they're worried. That also increases to about 67% of GDP. Should it be a concern for us, Joe?
It is, actually. It is one of the main drivers of the economy. How much of the money you spend in public services do you own? By just this one, it means that for every 10 cedis spent, 67 cedis, 6.7 cedis is borrowed. You're living on borrowed money. How far would you go? Ordinarily, very soon. If we
look at Greece, doesn't it mean that we're living on the threshold? Well, we haven't gotten to the condition.
No, we haven't gotten to the Greece's position yet. But you see, this is not the whole story. Even the 67% is not the whole story. If we were to do an audit of how much statutory payments are in arrears from 2013, even 2013, for all the statutory payments that government ought to pay that has not paid. If we calculated that and added it to the stock, we will exceed the 70% threshold. And to me, that is the danger. Living on is like from day to day, every person borrowing money to feed yourself.
But what's your worry? When we borrow to build linked infrastructure as far as roads are concerned, that would ensure speedy transportation of goods and services to and fro across country, you shouldn't be worried. Ultimately, in the medium to long term, it adds up to the revenue generation of our country.
Indeed, are we borrowing to build roads, as you say? Let's look at where construction.
I've seen interchanges. There's one also going to happen at Kaswa, we're told.
It's going to happen. We haven't borrowed that one yet. When you add all that, you see where we will go. But the truth of the matter is, if you don't learn to cut your coat according to your size, even the revenue you generate will not be sufficient. Now, when we borrow to buy cocoa, The product is there. We're only just going to pay back. So that is not a worry. But when you borrow to pay salaries, when you borrow to build roads that last 6 months, you've wasted the money. And then you look at what is it that we do with the money we generate. How come we can't sustain our own minimum? At least 70% of our income should take care of us, and we borrow 30%. That would have been reasonable. But you see, one, we are not giving value for money. And one major thing we should look at across board, everywhere, at all levels, local government, central government, everywhere, whatever. Anytime you do a real assessment of what money has gone out of the public purse versus what value we have gotten back, you'll be amazed at how much, whether we're getting anything close to 50% value for the amount of money we spend. That is a major failure we must look at, and it's costing us a lot. We went on a road inspection recently, Committee on Roads and Transport, and went with the various agencies, and we are amazed at the kind of work that was going on.
You mean the quality of the work?
Yes. I mean, third road, I could put my hand and pick the pebbles.
The chippings?
Yeah, the chippings from the road. It means that the tire is not holding it, the bitumen is not holding it. If the car runs over it 2-3 times, the whole thing will be gone. That is 1 million cedis per kilometer. That's what they charge for that road. 1 million Ghana cedis per kilometer. And what do we get for that? These are the things that we're looking at. How much could we have saved if we're doing it properly? If it lasted us 10 years, we wouldn't need to go back with more internally generated funds or road fund money to maintain it. Once you're able to do it, to run well for 10 years, you save the money that you use for maintenance to go and do something else. Now, the amount of money that we're talking about building roads, apart from the urban roads, like the interchanges you're talking about, the rest of the roads, even highways, we are not doing anything. And our local contractors, how much do we owe them? How much do we owe them? What is happening to their businesses? Then talking about job creation. You see, if we create artificial jobs, all we are doing is taking money from central government and distributing it.
You mean non-sustainable jobs?
Yes, they are artificial. Youth employment. And therefore we pick young men and women and place them at places just because we want to see that we are creating jobs. They are not sustainable. It's the same thing as the central government just taking money and distributing it to them. It doesn't bring much change. It doesn't give us a lot of returns as a country. When you have sustainable jobs, largely, good investments in the infrastructure, better macro management, then the private people open businesses, they employ. That one is a lot more sustainable. And with that employment, it does not cost government that much, but it brings in revenue in taxes. But when you take money from your own coffers, wherever it is from, and then you place people at vantage point and pay them with that, and then take a portion of that even as tax, you're just cutting. You're not creating jobs, so to speak. I mean, when it comes to funding youth employment, we passed the communications tax. The revenue from there was supposed to go into that one. Where is that revenue? Why is it? Why do we now need money from what do you call
so migration? The communication tax, where is it going?
Ask Uncle Ade. I recall that we invited the minister to Parliament to explain how much has been generated from that tax in 2010. It brought the breakdown, and we asked, that money was supposed to go to the youth employment. How come they have 5-6 years, 2 years in arrears and no payment? The explanation was that there are other pressing national assignments. So
indeed, now there are more pressing national assignments. Right. Now, to the point where, well, not as if the critics of government, in the way it is or has been managing its finances, will sound like a broken record. It is, in all truism, a fact that we spend annually, or this current year, we're going to spend 9.2 billion of our money servicing debt. Okay? If that is happening, then we have serious issues about the way we're managing our finances or expenditure?
Yeah. Roland, don't forget the debt did not start today. So servicing the debt does not mean you are servicing debts that are for the past 4 years. You remember my brother here went to the Eurobond to some 750 million. That debt has to be paid. It was for a certain period of time. So when we are talking about debt, we tend to focus on just maybe 4 or 5 years. This debt starts from the time of Kwame Nkrumah. Some of the debts he knows are due 30 years from the time. So we are taking certain debts now, money loans now, which are due for payment 25, 30 years beyond. You see, so when we are talking about, you have to situate it in a whole holistic manner. That it is not NDC debt that we are servicing. We are servicing NPP debts as well. And our politicians are very clever to disassociate themselves from the debt that they got, that they judiciously used.
You are saying that we should treat it as a country debt.
Exactly. It was. I'm not saying they.
But if you're managing the economy,
and
the consistent criticism is that excessively you're borrowing.
Let me tell you something.
Borrowing not for items which they feel can ultimately generate enough for us to be able to repay back and see physical.
Let me tell you something. Me, I'm an economist by profession, right?
Sure.
And I believe borrowing is not a bad thing, provided you use that money for the purposes that it was meant for, which we eventually generate.
You think we're using what we borrow?
Atwabo gas infrastructure, right? If this thing starts producing at full capacity, after all the nuances have been cleared.
Well, we've had that the last year.
Exactly, a lot of nuances. If there has been, do you know how much money we are going to generate by saving, instead of us relying on the West African gas pipeline? We've got our own gas. Do you know how much money we are going to save that we will use to pay the loan back? Look, Rich Hospital. We need to expand our hospitals, our medical infrastructure. So if you are about to put up the Rich Hospital, is that a bad thing? Because people will pay when they go there. You are talking about Kaswa. Do you know that number of hours that people just spend from crossing Kaswa to the central region?
Before Kaswa?
Before Kaswa.
Way before.
And the amount of fuel that they have to spend sitting in the traffic. So if that interchange is cleared, do you know how much they are going to? So these are the new ones that we don't talk about it. Right? For me, borrowing is not the bad thing, provided we use it for the right thing.
Do you think we're borrowing prudently? I mean, sincerely.
Exactly. Look, we need infrastructure development. Look, the motorway. Count the number of deaths that occur on the motorway. Kwame Nkrumah did that 30 or 40 or 50 years ago. That place has to go and have about 6 lanes. How do we do it? How do we do it? So I agree with him that there must be value for money. Our problem, we are our own enemies. They've given you a contractor a job, a job to do. Instead of using 5 bags of cement, right? Because you want a quick bag, you are using 2 bags of cement. President Mahama is not at the factory, at the place of construction to find out whether you are using 5 bags of cement. So
it behoves on the normal public servants.
Exactly. The person who has been put in place as the consultant, as the engineer, as the whatever, architect, to ensure that the right thing is being done. But so we are our own enemies. We are our own enemies.
But somebody will say all bogs down to leadership.
No. That is why we should make sure that the systems...
or somebody say all bogs down to leadership. At the end of the day, if you have a leader who perhaps will be exuding that sort of authority, nobody down, middle or down.
Roland, we talk about leadership, but we talk about us also being patriotic. Countries have developed over the years when they've been very patriotic. The leadership is there. My brother, when he was at DVL, so I saw his leadership qualities, the things that he wanted to do. But the people around him, the Goro boys, were not allowing him to do it. You understand? So it's sometimes it is our own inordinate behaviors that we should change the attitude, and that is where the attitude comes in. Are we patriotic enough? Are we go to America? Somebody said when they mention the United States of America, they see the flag. How many Ghanaians put their hand on their chest when the national anthem is
the footballers do?
Oh, I said how many Ghanaians? I'm talking about footballers. When the national anthem is being played, how many people put their hand on their chest?
And be sincere about it.
Exactly, it's not. There's no patriotism.
You know, see, the national anthem does not require us to do
that. When the military man is that
the military man think it was the national pledge.
Whatever. You see, so the attitude of us must also change.
Patriotism.
Exactly. So government will come and go. Me and my brother here will expire. But those who are coming, are they learning something? What they are learning today is whether to go about insulting everybody on the radio and television, that kind of thing.
I think at least we don't, the two of you don't do that. But seriously, are we doing good to ourselves? Yeah. As far as
we are not. But you see, leadership is cause, all else is effect. What you get if the leader is not taking the right steps, that the followers do anything. And here I'm not just talking about the political leadership. The leadership at every level. When you talk about me at DVLA, I was under somebody, but I take responsibility for what I had in charge of.
So it doesn't matter whether you're at the top. Leadership is everywhere, you say?
No. You see, the other major function of leaders at the top is selecting the right people at the various levels. That is where we have allowed politics to cloud our judgments. We are putting people in places as a reward for political support.
Square pegs in round holes.
A lot of that. We had a meeting over the weekend with Fair Wages Commission. We're reviewing the laws regarding salary structure.
Your committee?
Which largely another committee, but my committee was requested to work with them in view of the legal regimes that we're dealing with. And the leader there says, the real challenge you have are the agencies that don't need public funds. The quality of leadership they have there. So many of them say that you start to see that this person is working to achieve financial autonomy for the agency. It's removed. Another person comes who is just happy to sit by and expect government money to come in. So the projects we start are stalled midway. How do we choose the leadership? It's the function of the president in this case. You know, if he knows are these qualities, and yet because of political orientation over there, he decided, well, even if you're the very best in the world, you don't belong to my political orientation, so to hell with you. We're not looking at Ghana. And that one, the president must take responsibility at all levels. I agree that, for example, when we're talking about the quality of the roads, the engineers are responsible. But it's also because there's somebody who is in charge of the engineers. You must demand the quality from them. If you don't, they will not do anything. Everywhere. We talk about the developed world. I agree that. But you see,
but do you agree that you could have somebody who, let's say, and I know this one you're making reference to a political appointed person, let's say the minister, has to demand. But if the man is not patriotic, he may go to the field. The minister may not follow him to the field. So the point is that the innate attitudes of the people, just like Ade also quoted, is critical.
I agree, but you see, it is what standard you approve for him to work with. This are the standards. I mean, when I went to DVLA and I found that there are challenges with people, that my testing officers going on the road, we set out a work. These are the checklist you go with. If you come back, your supervisor will check. It may not happen instantly, but over the years, you build that standard that assures quality. Often, we ourselves as political leaders also compromise the standards we give the people, because whilst the person is insisting on the standard, you will threaten him or her. This is my friend, do this or that for him or her. As soon as he compromises for you, he will compromise for other people for his personal gain. So we should take responsibility as leaders and also get other people. But we should build a culture of quality service delivery. That we cannot compromise on that one. And we political leaders are totally responsible.
All right.